Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty special, a 30-year anniversary. It's about the founding and really the lasting impact of the Asian Center for Missions, ACM, in the Philippines. And this story, well, it's packed with these threads of incredible faith, surprising provision, and some real personal sacrifice.
It really is a remarkable journey. And as we get into it, what strikes me is the foundational idea, maybe call it a revelation, that really kicked this whole thing off. What's so interesting is how having absolutely no money at the start wasn't the problem you'd think. It actually sort of proved a bigger point.
Right.
So our mission today, if you like, is kind of pull out the lessons from this. How does a vision that seems, well, impossible actually become this huge reality? It seems to come down to just unwavering belief and, honestly, often the most unexpected help showing up. You'll see how what looks like a dead end can actually be proof of the vision's power.
Okay, so let's unpack that beginning then, because it really does set the scene for everything else. We're talking Gordon Robertson, founding ACM, Philippines, 1995. And the starting point, like you mentioned, really tough. He jumped into this huge thing with, well, literally zero funds, nothing to cover expenses. I mean, how do you even wrap your head around starting like that financial vulnerability?
It's a huge question, isn't it? And that initial challenge, that zero balance, it actually became key to Gordon's core insight. He basically realized that being afraid about money meant he was, in a way, doubting God's power. It was like saying, well, the creator of the universe couldn't possibly provide for something he asked him to do.
Ah, okay, so a fundamental shift in perspective.
Exactly, the profound shift. And that belief just completely replaced the financial fear. And he described how things started, well, pretty slow that first year. But then it just seemed to snowball. And before long, ACM grew to become the largest missionary training center in the whole country. So yeah, from 1995, starting with nothing, but fueled by this deep belief in provision, it just blossomed, became this major force.
That kind of scale, that impact is really staggering, especially from those beginnings. What does that monumental growth teach us, about keeping a big vision going long term?
Well, I think it shows the exponential power you get from consistent steps, small steps sometimes, but driven by this deep conviction. It shows that even visions that seem impossible, they can achieve incredible reach over time. I mean, look at the numbers. ACM-trained missionaries have now worked with, get this, 304 unreached people groups.
Wow, 304?
Yeah, communities with very little or no previous contact with their message. And that's across 77 different nations. It's truly global. And, when you meet some of these people, there's often this visible sign of their commitment, calloused hands. It's a mark of this sheer hard work and the sacrifices they made out there.
That's powerful. It's not just a number. It really speaks to the dedication of individuals. So what does that global reach actually look like on the ground in people's lives? And how does ACM keep supporting those efforts?
Yeah, it's all about multiplying that real tangible impact and supporting the individuals doing the work. There's this ambition within ACM now to give birth to international training centers, kind of echoing that old biblical phrase from Caleb, let us go, let us possess and overcome, that spirit. And you see it embodied in people like Roland Caddis. She spent 17 years helping young refugees fleeing the war in Myanmar right there on the Thailand border. And she's not just giving them shelter, she's teaching practical skills, things they can use to build a life.
Like what kind of skills?
Things like making soap and tea, computer skills, baking, other sustainable projects, things that can generate income or be useful. She also runs a children's home there, and she told Gordon her real dream now is to actually start a school for these kids.
So it's more than just aid. It's about empowerment, giving them tools for their future. How does that practical skills approach work? Does it evolve? What makes it effective in those kinds of situations?
I think it's about dignity, right? And long-term thinking, fostering self-sufficiency instead of just dependence. And ACM makes sure to look after its people too, like Roland. They held this event, a missions fiesta, where Operation Blessing, the humanitarian group, came in and gave free medical and dental checkups. Just a practical way to say thank you for their years of service.
That's important, showing appreciation.
Absolutely. And it goes both ways. There was also this mention of a meaningful parade of donations that the missionaries themselves received. It highlights that support flows back and forth. But through it all, Gordon's core message seems really clear. It's love. It's God's love that compels one to do missions. He really encourages people to ask to be filled with that love so much that it won't give you rest day or night, until either you go or you send.
That's a pretty intense call to action, whether you're the one going or the one supporting. Such a powerful idea. And as we keep digging into this, it's clear it's not just about the, external results. It's also about the deep personal lessons learned over 30 years.
Right.
Gordon mentioned something recently about needing to redig the wells. Like going back to the basics, those original core beliefs.
Yes, and that idea of redigging the wells, it connects directly to a really critical lesson Gordon learned early on, which was quit looking at your bank account as your God.
Mm.
This kind of explains why he sees faith as inherently involving risk. He even says, you can spell faith
Oh,
R-I-S-K.
I-S-K.
Yeah. His point is, if you don't have that moment of, oh no, is this actually going to work? Maybe you haven't really stepped out in true faith.
Mm.
He shared this incredible story and anecdote about a couple working in the Sunda Mountains. At first, he thought they meant South Sudan, the more Christian part.
Okay.
But they corrected him, no, we're in North Sudan,
Yeah.
right in the middle of the Civil War.
Oh. Oh.
And here's the kicker.
Yeah.
They run the only school in that entire region. And they said, the Muslims are protecting us because their children need the education the school provides. I mean, talk about an unbelievable example of God's grace and provision in a place you'd think was impossible. The very people involved in the conflict are ensuring the safety of those educating their kids. Just amazing.
That story really drives home how provision can show up in the most unexpected ways. It's clearly not just about money, is it? It's protection. It's opportunity coming from places you'd never predict. What makes people willing to embrace that kind of danger, that risk?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really ties into Gordon's own personal journey, his calling. He had this incredibly vivid dream. He described it as seeing boatloads of Filipinos going out into the mission field. And this dream came after some big shifts in his life. He had already left his law practice. He'd even been involved in smuggling Bibles into China, which sounds intense.
Yeah, definitely.
And then there was this really pivotal prison ministry experience back in the Philippines where apparently every single prisoner stood up wanting to accept his message about Jesus. He just knew something major was shifting, and that dream just cemented the direction.
So the dream was the catalyst.
It seems like it, because just 2 months later, Gordon, his wife Catherine, and their daughter Evelyn, who was only 1.5 at the time, they just packed up and moved to the Philippines. Sold pretty much everything, put what was left in storage. He calls it their great God adventure.
Wow, that's immediate, a radical step of obedience and, well, sacrifice. What did that actually cost them personally, that level of commitment? How did it shape how they saw provision?
He's very open about the cost, the sacrifice and obedience. It wasn't easy. He actually got cerebral malaria and nearly died. That's huge. And then there was the constant pressure month after month trying to make payroll for the center. He admits very plainly there was never seemingly enough provision, but there was always God.
Never enough provision, but always God. That's quite a statement.
It really is. And it makes you question how we usually define provision, doesn't it? Gordon often refers back to like an ancient principle. The idea that real provision often shows up when you're vulnerable, when you step out without everything lined up. He even suggests it might be a mistake sometimes to come fully provided for because it removes that need to rely on the unexpected, on faith.
Interesting, like the story in Luke 10 where Jesus tells his disciples, don't take a purse, just go.
Exactly that. Rely on the hospitality, eat what's put before you.
Yeah.
That kind of vulnerability. He also compares it to Abraham, waiting so long for Isaac. That idea of contending for a promise, holding on to it even when it takes a really long time. But looking back now after 30 years, Gordon's reflection is pretty profound. He says it's no sacrifice to follow what the creator of the universe tells you to do, even if it involves suffering. Because, as he puts it, it leads to fruit that remains 30 years later.
What an incredible arc, from zero funds, literally nothing, to impacting hundreds of groups in dozens of countries. The story of the Asian Center for Missions, it really is this powerful example of, well, radical obedience, suffering through it, and seeing that lasting fruit. It's a deeply personal story, but one with this huge global ripple effect.
And maybe that leaves us, and you listening, with something to think about. How do stories like this, these tales of impossible starts and decades of impact, how do they maybe challenge our own ideas about what provision means and what risk means? What really stands out to you about the sheer power of a vision, even when it seems like there's no conventional support for it? Perhaps it nudges you to consider, what might your own first step of faith look like, trusting that maybe, just maybe, true provision goes way beyond what we can see or count in a bank account.